What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Podcasting Business School. This is the show where I teach podcasters how to love their show like a hobby, but build it like a business. And if you guys have been tuned in lately, you know that one of my big goals this year is to get better at email marketing. So I'm on a journey, I'm on a quest to improve my skills when it comes to emails, automated emails, in real-time emails like I do with my newsletter, but developing and nurturing that skill as much as I can. And so I'm bringing in email marketing and marketing expert Liz Wilcox onto the show. Very excited. For those of you that are enjoying the video, it's just something extra special. Liz is full on in her 90s best. She's very boy band. She has her own flavor. Let's just put it that way. Her personality is evident in everything that she puts out. I'm thrilled to have her on. So, Liz, welcome to Podcasting Business School.
Thank you so much for my 90s best. Is that like your Sunday best? I'm in my 90s best here with Adam. I'm so excited. I love that you said email is one of your goals for 2022 because that's what I'm all about. I'm on a freaking mission to make sure no matter what you podcast about, no matter what your business is, like you can make email work for you. Because I was the type of person, I started out as a travel blogger. I literally lived in an RV in the middle of the woods. I didn't even have internet on my phone. I had to go out and steal it. And so all these crazy I had to borrow it from the library. You can't steal from the library, can you? But I had to come up with my own kind of strategies to work around that wild lifestyle I was living. And so I figured out a way to make it really simple because my brain, I'm a 2-step chick. If it takes 3 steps, I'm out. And so now I'm just on a freaking mission to make, what seems really complicated, email, like really simple for folks, no matter what your business is, especially if your business isn't email, like podcasting, right?
Well, the thing that I love about how you do what you do is I believe that some of the biggest and best innovations in business, especially, come from people that are figuring it out their own way. Because we all have the big guru expert people like, this is the template that you should use. And I've made billions of dollars doing it this way. But the people that go out there and go, you know what, I'm just going to go out and kind of hack through this and figure it out on my own and see what happens. And then we get results and you teach those results. I'm the same way in the podcasting space. I don't do things the traditional way or market my show the traditional way. And people like that because it's more doable for a lot of people. So let's talk about your journey into becoming a marketing expert, a leader in this space. Like, how did you go from the travel RV blogger lady into now you're helping people just, blow up their email list and convert leads into sales? How do we make that jump?
Yeah, so I moved into an RV to save money and I don't like to clean, so it made sense to live in a small space, right? And at the time I was married and my husband was in the military. He was trying to get out and, I started Googling how to live in an RV and I saw all these travel bloggers and I was like, Ed, oh my gosh, did you know you could like drive this thing? We could literally just drive off. And so I started my blog and I listened to podcasts like this. I watched webinars and everyone that was hosting one always said something like, I wish I would have taken my email list more seriously. I would have seen these results sooner. Or, I only saw these results because I started building my email list, right? And mama didn't raise no fool. I didn't start a travel blog because I wanted a diary online. I started it as a business. I wanted to, take our RV and start driving it. But my husband at the time was in the military. They tell you where to go, right? I wanted to tell me where to go. So I started this business and I knew I wanted to take my email marketing seriously. Like I said, I didn't really have internet. I had a toddler. I was living in 200 square feet in the woods. Like, shit was stressful. Okay. I needed a way out of that life. And I also grew up really poor. And, when I was seeing these other bloggers like, oh, I made $100,000 in 18 months. I was like, what? I have been lied to. I need to figure this out. Like if you grow up if you grew up poor, you know what I'm talking about. Like, you think you've got to work 2 jobs, or you've got to save all your extra cash. But when I figured out I could literally like hit send on some stuff and make money, I was like, move over, Jeff Bezos. This is going down for me. Like, I'm gonna figure this out. And so over time, I developed a few different products. My first product actually was, I talked to my audience. I was kind of all over the place. I had a travel blog, but I wasn't traveling. So I asked people, well, what the heck? Why are you following me? I don't even know what I'm doing yet. And they said, oh, Liz, you're funny and you can tell a good story. So what was my very first product but a collection of funny stories? It actually was called Tales from the Black Tank. And if you've ever been camping, you know the black tank is where your sewage goes. And so, and you can't see Adam right now, but he just rolled his head back. I hope you did too. But what what was so great about that is it was just a collection of hilariously crappy stories. And what I want you to note is that I didn't create that product because I thought that's what people wanted. I asked people what they wanted first. Because again, like, I'm nothing if not an efficient chick. Like, I'm not going to do anything that's not worth my time. And so I knew I needed to ask my people. That book ended up making me about $7,000 in the first 90 days. It got picked up by an international sponsor that gave me $7 for every lead they got through. They were using it as a lead generation. And in that moment, like when I signed that contract, I had my ex take a picture of me because I just knew this was like, wow, I'm doing something. And this was less than a year into business. It was something that just, I was like, okay, I'm on to something. This is really happening. And email is where it's at. I was able to sell those books through my email list and make that money. I ended up, developing a digital summit, some other products. And then my real like aha moment of, wow, I need to teach people this is I created a digital course and I had 141 people on the wait list. And I did a traditional, open cart, close cart, Monday through Friday thing. By the end of it, I had made 141 sales. So word on the internet streets got around. Liz, oh my gosh, conversion rates are like maybe 10% if you're a rock star, but how did you get 100%? And I started looking at what I was doing with email. And of course, a lot of it was strategic, but I didn't necessarily have the framework down. And I realized there was a pattern that I was doing. And that in that moment, when I realized my framework, I said, okay, I need to go all in on this because, everybody needs to know about this. Like, the rich people are lying to us. Like, this is not that hard. We can all do it. And so I sold that business slowly, eventually got bought out of my second digital summit business. And now I do this full time.
Wow. What a story, Liz. I have so many questions. We have to unpack so many things. I hope you're free for the next 10 hours. So let's just start with some low-hanging fruit, because I know that my audience, we typically do struggle with email. We're inconsistent. We aren't really talking to our audience. We aren't really having conversation. We're kind of marketing to them instead of talking with them, having a conversation. What are some of the big, like, glaring things that when people cross your path and you start helping them out, like, what are people screwing up the most on average? What can we fix, or like one or two things that, like, all right, let's really look at fixing these things first, and then we can build some momentum with email marketing.
Yeah. So basically, what I first want you to know is you've got to change your mind about email. Even I have an email membership, and I just got off a live co-writing session with them. And a lady, I mean, she pays me every single month. She goes, I hate email. And I'm like, well, should I refund you? I don't know what to say. But no, what I want you to know about email is, like, you don't hate email. You hate when people do email wrong. And almost everyone does it wrong. Like, how many unread emails do you have? Probably thousands. But what I want you to understand about email is it's the same as an actual mailbox. So the way we act in the mailbox is the same way we act in our inbox. We go out to our mailbox. Oh, that's a bill. Oh, John moved 6 months ago. Oh my gosh, Adam sent me something. I'm going to open that right away. If Adam sent you something, everything else is going into that basket, into that junk drawer, and we're opening that newsletter right away, right? We do the exact same thing in our inbox. Oh, that's a bill. How the heck did they get my email address? I thought I unsubscribed. Oh my gosh, Liz Wilcox sent me something. I wonder what she has to say today. We all have that, at least one person that we open their emails when we see it, right? So I want to change your mind first about email in general, because I know podcasting, you get immediate results. You can see how many people download. You can see the clicks if you do that. You can see page views if you do that. There are metrics you can track. And with email, it's so much more of a long-term game. I mentioned my framework earlier. That's follower, friend, customer. That can be a long journey depending. And so it seems really difficult. So I want you to just think about list building as something that's essential to your business. And that is a money making activity. The same way, like if you're a podcaster, you're trying to get sponsors, you need to get your downloads up, right?
Right.
It's this, that's a money making activity for you. So you put your butt in the chair and you do it, because eventually you're going to see results. Eventually you're going to get that sponsor. You're going to get, those new leads, whatever the end game is. That's how I want you to think about email marketing. And then second, when you listen to podcasts like this, if you get another email marketer, I'm not a betting man, but if I were to bet, I bet you they're going to tell you to tell stories, right? We all hear, the story brand, Donald Miller, he's super popular. And that's true. I've told like 3 or 4 stories just in the last 10 minutes. Stories definitely connect, but especially as a podcaster who's just trying to use their list to maybe sell products, do sponsored content or get more people to the episode. You don't need to be a storyteller. You don't need to tell stories every single week. You didn't get into your business to write newsletters, to tell stories all the time. A newsletter is a newsletter, not a novel. So just, what I want you to do instead is just give a personal update. We still need to make that personal connection, but we can do it in 2 to 3 sentences. So if Adam was writing his newsletter today for his most, like he was writing it today, he was publishing this episode. Hey, I just got off a call with this girl, Liz Wilcox. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. She had this NSYNC poster in the background and these crazy rainbow glasses. Anyway, what I really wanted to talk to you about is the email marketing tips she gave. Click here for the episode. Peace out. I'm going to go make a pizza. Adam. I just wrote his whole newsletter in 30, 40 seconds. If it takes you longer than 20 minutes, you're doing it wrong. So basically, instead of trying to tell some story where it segues into the lesson or the moral of your podcast episode, just give a quick personal update, something you've done in the last 7 days that you think is semi-interesting, but also shows a bit of your personality. Segue into the content. And by segue, I mean all caps, anyway, ... What I really want to talk about is it can really be that simple.
Okay. So you're speaking my language, and I truly enjoy. I do a weekly newsletter. Like, you'll be so proud of me, Liz. Like, every Wednesday morning, and I am hardcore with my clients, all the podcasters. I'm like, we need to build a list, and you need to talk to them every damn week, and you better send that email. And I
Amen.
use a very similar format, and I get replies. Okay, so I got to tell this story. Speaking about storytelling, so I start off every newsletter with what time it is. I'm like, this email was lovingly curated at 5:31 a.m. And then I talk about what I just did. Usually I'm sipping some cold brew coffee.
Love it.
People always comment about the coffee. Like, I have my newsletter subscribers that will send me gift certificates for cold brew coffee because I always talk about cold brew coffee. And then at the end, I always talk about what I'm getting ready to do, like make the kids some breakfast, get them off to school. I got to talk to my realtor today because we're buying a house, blah, blah, blah. And people freaking love that framework. And then all the stuff in between, that's like the content, but it just adds a little bit of your own flavor, a little bit of your own personality. Like, people expect that email and they look forward to it. Just like you said, that was the thing in their mailbox. Like, ooh, I got to open it and see what Adam has to say today. So that nurturing style email, that is definitely my jam. How do you differentiate that? Like, I feel like there's that, and then there's the I got to market something. I got to take them on a path. I need to create an email series or funnel where I'm actually going to sell something. You've talked about all the success of actually being able to get people on a wait list and then buy. Is that done through your newsletter, or is that done off to the side with a little bit of an email series or specific marketing funnel?
Yeah, there's two kind of schools of thought, and there's two ways of doing it. You can have that very traditional evergreen funnel where people come in a certain way, you're nurturing them into a sale, and that's totally fine. It takes a little more I guess time. You have to really know your people for an evergreen funnel to work. You have to know who they are, what they want from you, where they came from, why they follow you specifically, right? Like there are a million email marketers out there. There's a million people talking about podcasts. Why are you listening to Adam and Liz today? Like, what is it specifically about you? Like, I've got NSYNC in the background. I'm wearing Britney Spears. If you like Backstreet Boys and Christina Aguilera, you're done. You're like, no, it's not for me, right? Why are they following you specifically? And then how you can help them. If you really know those answers, then definitely like get thee to the nunnery, write that evergreen funnel. Like that thing is going to pop off for you. Now, if you're at the stage where maybe you're not like Adam, but you want to, you want to write that consistent newsletter. You want to know those answers to really like, and I don't want you to guess like, oh, this is who I want to be on my list, but like who is actually on your list? Because
Right.
those are sometimes two different things. So I suggest doing it a different way. And that is like putting it in the newsletter itself. So I sell on almost I send an email every Tuesday afternoon, and every time I'm pitching some kind of offer. Either it's an email surrounded about the offer, like let's say I'm part of a summit, I'm pitching the summit, right? Or it could just be in a PS, like PS, don't forget I have this 20-minute newsletters, get it now for $20 or whatever, right? And that I actually started experimenting with about a year ago. And so it's been a year of consistent offers in a very non-salesy way, usually in a PS or a paragraph where I'm doing like a mismatch, like, hey, here's my new blog post. Here's a new podcast I was into. Oh, by the way, I'm selling this week. Something like that can work really well, especially if you are the type of person that's not going to sit your butt in the chair and spend 2 hours on an evergreen funnel. You don't know your people that much. You're not, the idea of going in and creating automations, gives you heart palpitations. I really recommend just kind of, picking out a few different things that you have to sell, whether it's affiliate, your own thing, even sponsorships, right? Like if you know anybody that wants to sponsor this, like constantly be putting that out there. Really helps you with your email marketing because the people that aren't going to buy are going to unsubscribe, and you pay for your list. So you don't want them on your list. And then the people that, see those offers every single week, they're going to be like, oh, wow, Adam's a business, Liz is a business, Shahar is a business, whatever, right? And, they're going to be rooting for you. They're going to be like, oh, I wonder how many they'll sell of this, or, oh, let me check that out. Here's another point I want to make real quick before I pause for water. People don't buy when you're selling, they buy when they're ready. So constantly putting offers out there in your newsletter, very, very casual. You don't have to be a salesperson to make sales, okay? They might not, buy this month, but maybe you offer it again in 3 months. Oh, hey, don't forget I have X. Oh yeah, I remember I looked at that back in March. I've got a little bit more money this go round. Let me check that out again, right? Or I'm at X point and now I can use that. And so that's how I do things. I don't have a really giant evergreen funnel. I'm very much more on the fly. And I think evergreen funnels are a more advanced strategy. So that's something, after 5 years in my business, I do plan on building one now that I really know those answers and I think they can really convert. But in general, I would suggest just putting offers out there as much as possible.
I love the simplicity of this, Liz. I think that, well, this strategy works really well with the vibe of what I'm always talking about on this show. And when I talk about email lists and newsletters all the time. So you're right in alignment with the way that I tend to preach on this show. So let's talk about the offer specifically. And I know this is the type of question where I get the lovely answer. It depends, but I want you to kind of like just think about on average, or just if you have any opinions. But do you see certain types of offers as far as like the product itself, like coaching, automated courses, online summits? Um, what else do we have? Challenges. Do you see a type of offer that tends to be able to be sold more effectively via a newsletter? And then let's talk price points. Maybe that's more appropriate. Like, do we want to keep it under a certain price point if we're pitching it via an email, or are you seeing results all the way across the board?
It depends. Yeah, I think really go back to what I was saying about like who are your people? What do they want from you? And if you can even answer just those two questions, if your people are, a bunch of cheap bastards, don't maybe not try to sell them $1,000 in an email, get them on the phone or whatever. And I say that because I used to, like I said, I had this travel blog. These were people that didn't even want to pay for electricity. They lived in their RVs. They tried to, it's called boondocking. That's where you don't pay. You live off, the reserves in your rig. You have solar. And somehow I was able to sell this course to them. And so they didn't even know what a digital course was. I was able to, 100% sold out type of situation. But that's because I answered the objections first. So kind of mixing Adam's current question with his last question about why there was such success is if you're launching a new product, you've got to, no matter what it is, make your people part of it. That way you don't even have to ask that question. You know what kind of format they want it in. If they want a digital course, if they want a group coaching program, if they're more one-on-one, if an ebook will just do, right? And so if you create that process with them, you'll never have a problem selling. So with the maintenance course, y'all, I have never changed a bike tire in my life. Okay. Somehow I created an RV maintenance course. I outsourced the content. I just knew that's what my people wanted. I knew that was the number one question I was getting and not being able to answer. So I was like, I need to capitalize on this. I need to find somebody. So anyway, I said, hey, would you be interested in this resource? Okay. 141 people. Yes, Liz, please. Okay, well, what do you think? Do you think it should be like a traditional? And remember, these were men in their 60s. They didn't know what a digital course was. So I kind of explained that, like, hey, there's this online format you can use, it would be bite-sized videos, kind of like YouTube, but all in one place. It would be, more than surface level content. Or do you think like a manual would do, or what? They're like, oh, the videos, that sounds really cool. So we could actually see what the RV technician is doing and be able to apply it. Okay, boom, we're making a digital course. So whatever sells best is whatever they tell you, or you can sell them on it, right? Like that was my biggest objection was, well, we don't know what a digital course is. So I made behind the scenes videos. I, sent them to teachable.com. I showed them literally how much internet it would take to log in, right? Because these people are on the road. They don't have very good internet.
Right.
So it really depends on, again, who your person is. What do they want from you? Answer those questions, get them in on the conversation, and you'll know exactly what you need to create. I talk about that email staircase: follower, friend, customer. If you can turn your list into, like a list full of friends, they'll tell you exactly what they're going to
Yep.
buy from you, right?
Yep. So with that, when you are getting feedback, is that done in one newsletter email where you're like, hey, go and fill out this form. Here's what I'm building. I would love your feedback. And then it has several questions. Or is this like a week to week update where you're kind of making it a weekly decision together? Like, do you want a course or do you want live coaching? Respond back and let me know. And then the next week, what modules should we be focusing on with this course? Blah, blah, blah. And is it, so how's the dance going down here is what I'm kind of
Yeah,
trying to figure out.
you guessed it, Adam. I very much am a big believer in just showing everyone the process as you move along. And
Okay.
so it was like, okay, we're going to create a course. What mod? I'm thinking module A and B. What is C and D? Hit reply and let me know. Again, these were people that weren't used to clicking and filling out surveys, so I did it very natively within my email
Okay.
platform. And honestly, even today, I ask for replies just there. It's a perfect way of turning one to many. Right, I'm sending one email to many people into that one to one, so that people, you become that person. Oh my gosh, Adam sent me something. I'm going to open it right away, right? It's when you can start to open up that relationship. Those followers turn to friends, and then, you make the offer their customers. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yes. And I like that a lot. Just to me, it's like, I like being able to take it at a nice, easy pace. I love bringing people in on the building process. Just a little, I can already envision it. Liz, does this make me an email nerd? I like to look at my email visually, like a painting almost, and like, oh, look at how the emojis bracket this title, and then the bold here, and then the spacing of the words. Like, I really love the way that an email looks sometimes. So, maybe I'm a card carrying email nerd because of that. Uh, I don't know.
Well, this is the part of the podcast where Liz Wilcox gets googly eyes. That's funny.
Like a well
Yeah.
placed emoji, just it just sets me off.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. No, I think it's great. And email, the same as podcasting, there can be a formula, but you can make it your own. You can bring your own style. You bring your own cold brews to it, right? And that's what makes it so great. I always talk about leading emails with your personality, your vision, and your values. So bringing that personality of, oh, I like to drink cold brews, but your vision, like my vision is that you make money with email. I'm constantly talking about that in my newsletters, in my welcome sequence. And one of my values, speaking of pricing from earlier, is affordability. A lot of my products are under $100 because I grew up really poor. When I started, I was really poor. I didn't have a lot of money to invest. And so I'm trying to rally around those same types of folks and teach them. And so I'm constantly bringing up those themes, and it really, really resonates. And I do want to say one last thing about, like, well, Liz, I'm talking about replies, right? Well, Liz, I don't ever get replies. You've got to have one in your welcome sequence. So if you ding, 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 here's the sound effect. If you learn nothing else from Liz Wilcox, let it be this. Right now, I want you pull over, or, put it on your calendar. Um, I want you to go into your very first email that you ever send people, where you deliver your freebie or whatever. And I want you to put a PS and just ask a very simple yes or no question. It has to be a yes or no. It can't be like a rate 1 through 5. It has to be yes or no. And it has to be something they immediately can answer. So for me, it's, do you have an email newsletter yet? That's an very obvious yes or no question. For Adam, it might be, have you started your podcast yet? Very obvious yes or no. We don't want them to be thinking at all, so that they hit the reply button and suddenly you've opened up that relationship, so that when you're going to try to sell a course, build a course, whatever, they're already used to replying you literally from day one. Does that make sense?
Yes, and my little, uh, part of my brain that hates ending up in the spam box, that also, like, gives me some insight of, like, if they reply to if they open it, click on something and reply the first email, that's gotta help keep us out of the spam box, right? Like, do you have
Dang,
any
Adam is knowledgeable, guys. Listen to him. He's so good. Yes. I did a whole presentation this morning on deliverability. It's called Open Sesame. It's super fun. Um, yeah. So if you can get someone to hit reply to you, that automatically puts you in the inbox for them for at least a few months. And now, if you're going, like, let's say I'm going into Adam's inbox and Michelle signs up tomorrow. Oh, well, Liz is going to Adam's inbox. The internet gods, I call it. The internet gods say, oh, well, they need to go into Michelle's inbox too, because Liz is really important to these other people.
Okay, so that I feel good about that, and I think that's such a simple technique. Now, with the PS, does that ever get cut off? You know what I'm saying? Like where it doesn't show, you get those little like three little dots at the end, and they're
Sure.
like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so should we put the question? So I just worry about this stuff. This keeps me up at night. Like, do I put it in the PS or should it be in the body of the email so I make sure that it's not lost in my signature? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the simpler you can make your emails, the better. It does affect deliverability, but not so much that you should like completely just have naked emails, right?
Yeah.
That's if you like having your signature, some sort of visual, that's fine.
Okay.
But in general, what I'm suggesting is in that first email. So your first email should be very short, so you shouldn't have that problem at all. Just keep
Perfect.
it very short. Just say like a quick greeting, thank them for signing up, through the freebie or whatever. Show them, like tell them what freebie they signed up for and what's inside. And then showcase a little bit of that personality and that vision. Here's the gold right here. So for me, it's my 90s, very 90s themed lady right here. And I want to make people money with emails. So I say, the one thing I want you to know about Liz Wilcox is as much as I love the 90s, I love the idea of you making money and having fun with email more. Peace out. Right. And then it's PS blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so I want you to, put that PS, but if you think of how you can have that one liner in your quick intro, as much as I love X, I love the idea of you Y more. Just steal that. Okay. That is suddenly going to show a little bit of your personality. As much as I love cold brew, I love the idea of your podcast being a business you love or whatever you said, a hobby you love, but a business, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. That one liner, put that right there. We've done Adams. So whatever your thing is, because that's immediately you've shown them the vision, right? You can have as many followers, as anybody, but if you don't share the vision of where you're going with them, they're going to drop off. They're not going to follow you anymore, right? And so we need to share with them a bit of that personality, but also that vision, and you can do it right there in that first email. And then don't worry about the PS because you're short and to the point in that first one.
That seems very doable. And just I feel like I need to do a public disclaimer / announcement about the whole cold brew thing, because when I first started adding that to my email, I just called it cold brew, and I was consuming a cold brew, and I assume people thought that was coffee, but some people thought I had a drinking problem because I'm writing the email at 5. Oh, it's always before 6 a.m. And I'm like, just consumed a cold brew, and they're like, they were getting confused. So it's coffee.
Old Adam is cracking a cold one at 5:07 this morning. Yesterday it was 5:09. We really need to call somebody.
He just did 700 push-ups and drank a cold brew, and he's ready to rock.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, amazing. So let's get to the edge of the cliff here, where a lot of people screw this up. So we've been doing Liz's formula. We're building those relationships. We're nurturing it. We've been talking about this online summit that we're going to launch, and our audience has been plugged in. They're giving us feedback. They're hitting that reply button, and it comes time to hit the go button, to go, card is open. What does that email look like? What language do we need to incorporate? How do we not fumble at like the 2-yard line here?
Sure. So if you've done it properly, I always say like hype is your best friend. The more excited that you can be about your launch, about even just getting someone to click on your dang podcast, right? The more excited you are, the more open you are about how you feel about it, they're going to mirror that, right? So I used to call myself the white hype because I'm like, I'm just going to hype everything to like such an extreme level. And obviously you don't have to be like this Liz Wilcox extrovert, but share the same way you're sharing the progress of, your course. You want to share the feelings of it. Like, oh, it feels really exciting to get this first module done. It feels really exciting that I'm going to launch this sales page tomorrow. Right. And so when you get to that yard, I'm not football. I don't know what Adam just said, that 2-yard line. I don't know, whatever, you get it. So when you get to that finish line, people are so excited that their fingers on the trigger, their fingers on the mouse, they're ready to click over and check it out. And so you can just use language like, oh my gosh, it's finally happening. I'm really excited. I can't wait for you to see this. I worked really hard on it. Just being very upfront and honest. Even if you didn't work hard, if you hired a copywriter, say that. I spent a lot of money on this copywriter. I can't wait for you to see it. Or, whatever style you would use. But the more you can hype up that launch, the more people will be hyped, the more apt they'll be to click over to the sales page, sign up on the registration page, listen to the podcast episode, whatever. It's the same when you're podcasting and you have a great guest like Liz Wilcox and you record the intro after and you're like, oh my gosh, this was the best episode ever. I learned so much about email. I can't wait for you to listen. And then people are like, oh snap, let me get my headphones. I can't wait to listen either. It's the same in your emails, with your newsletters, with your pre-sales, with your launches. Always just be talking about, how you're feeling in that situation. Like, hey, I'm excited to answer your FAQs today. I'm excited to go live to show you behind the scenes. Stuff like that. Language around that is going to really, really get people over to the sales page, and the sales page will close the deal for you.
Okay, so let's stay on this theme with the sales page, and the cart is open. Do you tend to pick up your emailing frequency when the cart is open, and then how long do you like to keep that cart open zone happening?
Gotcha. Yeah, it really depends. Some people like a 2-week cart. Go back to those questions I asked. I don't know, at about the 10-minute mark. Who are they? What do they want? Where are they coming from, etc. And that'll really help you. For me, I tend to love launching. So a typical 5-day thing is not exhausting for me. Sometimes it might, most people don't like launching as much as me. And so, they're like, oh my gosh, 5 days, that seems like a lot, right? And so they might just do a few days, or they might do 2 weeks. So it's kind of like, it's a softer thing. They don't have to go as hard. It's like, hey, this is going to be open for 2 weeks. Let me know if you have questions. So think about your style, your capabilities, and your capacity, right? Like if you are just doing this on the side and you've got 2 kids, a job, you don't really have the capacity to do, an Amy Porterfield launch, or, one of those people you see online that's just boom, boom, boom in your face all day. So think about that. But traditionally, yes, of course, you're going to up those emails. You're going to prep people on your newsletter and say, like, this launch is coming. I'm going to be sending more emails. That way people are aware of it. And then at the bottom of your email, you're going to put something that lets them unsubscribe from that sales sequence only, right? That says, tired of hearing about Liz's membership, click here and we won't email you again about it, right? And then you use, this is where we get technical, you tag that person, you remove them from those emails.
Yep.
So that you don't ruin that relationship. Because again, people don't buy when you sell, they buy when they're ready, and they might not be ready yet, right? And they can make that decision. Email should really be about consent. So anytime you do that big launch, you send out more emails, make sure you have that at the bottom. If I had to give a number, I would say, like, for a 5-day sequence, I would send out at least 7 emails for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then 3 on Friday morning, afternoon, and then like a late night, like, hey, last chance type of thing. That's the typical thing.
Okay, so 7 the first 4 days, and then 3 the last day. Or is
No,
that
7 total. I'm sorry.
Okay,
So
7
7
total. Gotcha.
total.
Okay.
So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's 4. And then Friday has 3.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's very doable. Like, let's say you're doing a 14-day launch. What would those numbers maybe look like there?
Yeah, it really depends on, again, your style. If you're going for a softer launch, like, hey, this is open, if you want to come get it, maybe you take those 7 emails and you spread them across
Okay.
14 days. Or if you're really, really going hard, you might have 28 or 30 emails, one every 12 hours or so. I've seen it run the gamut. I would suggest playing around with it, maybe looking at some email marketers, like how they're doing it, subscribing to people that you know are launching to see how they do it. That's a great copywriter tip. Just always looking at what other people are doing, seeing what works, seeing what feels good for you. Like, oh my gosh, that's way too many emails. Or, oh, I loved this. This was fun. I see what they were doing here, and just getting a style and flavor that way. If I was doing 14 days, well, honestly, I don't think I could ever do 14 days. That sounds exhausting, but I'm the type of person that, wants to be in your face, wants to be on live all the time, wants to be talking to people, etc. So I would tend to send a lot more. But with 14 days, I would say you'd probably want to send Monday through Friday every single day. Maybe skip Saturday. Nobody really opens emails on Saturdays. And then Sunday, definitely send some out. And then I probably have the cart close on Sunday and send out a few emails on those days, because people are just sitting around stressing about work starting tomorrow or whatever, and, looking at their email.
Okay, that's quite a framework. I love how specific. That's something that I always try to bring to this show is just real specific, actionable tips. We talk theory and stuff like that, but I really, really like that. Now, you've got my brain cooking. You got my wheels turning on this. I've been cooking on an idea about kind of a 28-day little podcasting business boot camp that I'm going to start rolling out to my audience. And so if you guys are on my newsletter, you're going to be a part of this. You're going to be able to build it. We'll use this framework that Liz has taught us here today. I got one more question for you, Liz, before I let you go. This may be the most important question you've ever been asked. Definitely,
I'm leaning in.
Definitely in the last 41 minutes, at least. What 90s television show best represents and gives us a peek inside of the life story of Liz Wilcox? Like what show exists out there in the 90s that you're like, this totally tells my story. I vibe with this. What's that going to be?
The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, of course. I'm the Fresh Princess of email. I actually wrote a newsletter about this. So funny. Yeah. So the reason why I call myself the Fresh Princess, why I love Will Smith so much, is I really gel with that character of the Fresh Prince. Like, he taught me a lot growing up. The Fresh Prince, if you haven't seen the show, like, please, what planet are you on?
They should unsubscribe right now.
Right. Just get at it. Boo. Throwing tomatoes. No, I'm just kidding, but you should watch it. Like, excuse me, the Fresh Prince, he came into this like established and uptight environment, and then he mixed it up. He wasn't afraid to speak his opinion, like, no matter what the company, right? There's an episode, I think it's the first episode. He comes in and, he's just moved there, and they're having a party for like all these, politicians, and he just is who he is. But at the same time, as the show goes on, while being himself, like, he's open to learning new things and evolving, like, based on those lessons. And on top of, like, he just used style and humor to carve his way into the unfamiliar. And I feel like that's how I did email marketing. Like I said at the top of the hour, I didn't have money for expensive tools. I didn't even have internet, for God's sakes, And so I had to come up with these very simple, like, 2-step strategies to just get from A to B. I couldn't think about C, D, E, F, the way that these giant programs were teaching. I just had to do the next right thing. And I feel like that was what the whole show was about. And then just in general, like, Will Smith nowadays is always like very relevant, bold, refreshing. If you've read his memoir, he turns out to be like really scrappy guy. And that's kind of what I try to embody, how I try to live my life, and both personally and professionally. So that is actually like a super fun question. Thank you for asking. Y'all go check out Fresh Prince if you haven't seen it in a while, and you'll kind of see what I mean with all that.
I see it, Fresh Princess. I have a thing that I do on my Instagram lives that I haven't busted this out in a while, but you can add multiple people now. And when we get a Foursquare, so me and 3 other people live, we'll do a dance break. I've got Tom Jones queued up and we all do the Carlton. Like I'm up there,
I love that.
doing the whole thing. And it's pretty amazing. I've also got a few Instagram reels when I put on my powder blue disco leisure suit and we do a little Carlton action, but I can't fully get into it because my suit's really tight. I bought it off the rack. I'm a big old guy. So like my arm movement is it's limited so I don't bust it out. And
that's so funny.
So
I love that. I love that. And maybe this isn't your next guest. DJ Jazzy Jeff actually just launched his very first digital course and he has a membership. I pay $10 a month for his, he goes live on Instagram for like he does the magnificent lunch break. So he goes live on Instagram every day and DJs for an hour while you're eating your lunch. And then, he takes the recordings. Let this be inspo on how easy your offers can be. He just takes those Instagram recordings, uploads them like behind a paywall. And I paid $10 a month for this. I'm sure he has thousands of subscribers, right? And then he just launched his first digital course. I was just watching his lunch break before this and he's like, he's got sponsors now. He was like, you could tell it was sponsored, right? But it was something about like live and breathe healthy. It was some kind of health-based company, right? And he's talking about, the dance floor is like a treadmill. And it was sponsored, but I was like, damn, DJ Jazzy Jeff is like really getting into this digital space. Yeah. I am so inspired. I love it. Like you can do it no matter who you are, no matter what you are. There's always room for you. And it's just really inspiring. I'll stop talking now.
DJ Jazzy Jeff. Oh man. I mean, the song Summertime, that was like my jam in high school. So that
legend.
That brings me back. All right, girl. I know that people want to get into your world. I mean, at a minimum, they want to get on your newsletter list just so they can see how the master does it, how the Fresh Princess does email marketing. So that's homework item number 1 for all of you. Like, go get on Liz's list. How do they do that? How do they plug into your world here?
Super simple. So you can go to lizwilcox.com. In the top right-hand button or corner, there is a hot pink button. It says free email swipes. I'm going to give you, not only emails you can steal every Tuesday afternoon, but you're going to get an entire welcome sequence that's written already. So you can see how, I do it with that personality, vision, and values. I also give you 3 newsletter examples. Adam and I were talking about that formula. You're going to see that in action. And you get 52 subject lines completely for free. So you never have to write from scratch again. LizWilcox.com, hot pink button. You can't miss it.
Amazing. And I gotta just compliment you on your website. It is so well done. And it's so you. Like I've talked to you before and then I see your website. I'm like, oh my God, this is probably the best job I've ever seen of somebody inserting their full-on branding personality onto a web page. Every word, every picture, it's amazing. So go and check it out, lizwilcox.com. All the important links will be in the show notes. Liz, this has been so much fun. I had a feeling that it was going to happen. So I appreciate you spending some time with us here today.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Adam. I can't wait to see what everybody does with email.
All right. Pod Pals, we gave you some things to think about. I want to start seeing those newsletters. I want to see you applying and implementing what you learned here today. And I'm really excited about this one. You're definitely going to see it on my brand. So just prepare for that. All right, Pod Pals, another great episode with Liz here today. And I'm going to send you out into the podcasting wilderness today, wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We will see you next time.